MRSA is one of these superbugs. It's drug resistant, and it's an absolute bane in hospitals in particular because people are already immunocompromised, and MRSA can just tear through a hospital ward. And there has been nothing we can do about it. So the main way to deal with MRSA has been prevention. So like sterilizing, etc. But as soon as people start to get MRSA, there's not much you can do. So there haven't been any real drugs to deal with it. But until yesterday, AI designs antibiotics for gonorrhea and MRSA superbugs. So an artificial intelligence has invented 2 new potential antibiotics that could kill drug-resistant gonorrhea and MRSA, researchers have revealed. The drugs were designed atom by atom by the AI and killed the superbugs in laboratory and animal tests. So not yet human tests. That will be the next stage. The 2 compounds still need years of refinement and clinical trials before they can be prescribed. That's usual. But the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, says that the AI could start a second golden age in antibiotic discovery. So I looked into this because we've been using AI in drug discovery and in science for years. We've been using machine learning because AI has been around for ages. So I checked if this was actually generative AI. Generative AI is the new kid on the block. It's the modern version of AI. And when people talk about AI nowadays, they generally mean generative AI, but there are other forms. Predictive is the big one that we use in research. This is generative AI. So I did look it up, and the details, I went through the paper as well. I'm not going to cover it because it's a bit detailed, but it is Gen AI because what they were doing, basically, they used the model that they used is a bit like ChatGPT, but instead of putting together tokens or words, it was putting together molecules from scratch and then generating many millions and millions of variations of how these molecules can be put together. But it was like free form, and they were using generative AI to predict the next molecule that should be added in the same way that we do with ChatGPT to predict the next token, which leads to words. So this is generative AI, and it was generating chemical structures instead of words, if that makes sense, which is really exciting. And apparently it's working. So we will see what the results of this is, but it interrogated 36 million compounds, including those that either do not exist or have not yet been discovered. So it basically made all of these variations and tested them in a computer. And they came up with candidates which could potentially be drugs that do the work they need, created them physically, like with real atoms and molecules, and then tested them. But the AI, instead of like just testing random molecules or guessing, they were able to generate just, or not limitless, 36 million compounds using the generative AI and then narrow it down from there. So really cool use of AI. What I thought was interesting here, though, is normally when you look at, I don't want to call it mainstream media because that makes me sound like I'm some conspiracy theorist, but the BBC, I'm reading this on the BBC, generally the BBC is fairly anti-AI, and I understand why, because if you're a journalist, AI is a threat. So they normally finish every single article. Let's see if they do it here. They finish every article by reminding you like, oh, okay, remember that this is destroying the planet and it's going to take all our jobs. They did not do it in this particular one because this is a more positive story, but they allowed the comments. So there are 1,000+ comments on this. And I actually found this more interesting than the article itself. The article itself, fantastic, great. MRSA, maybe we've beaten it. We'll find out in a couple of years. But the comments are people who don't normally like AI having to concede, oh, maybe it's quite useful sometimes. So they're all things like, now this is what AI should be doing instead of making silly videos. I think this is the first positive news I've ever heard regarding the utilization of AIs. Usually it's stories about how to steal the livelihoods of writers and singers and being used to make naked celebrities. This is, of course, the news we need, etc. Demonstration of what AI is capable of in the right hand. People moaning that AI isn't useful because they can't figure out how to use it effectively. But the problem is usually between chair and keyboard. I agree there. Someone here, no, AI actively lies and manipulates. Finally, a good news story about AI. Let's hope farm animals weren't routinely, etc. But there are lots of comments in here, thousands of comments of people realizing that AI can be used for good and it can be used for ill. But the truth of the matter is the headlines and the websites that people click onto tend to be the gruesome. It tends to be the negative because that makes a much better story. Something about the discovery of a new drug is not a very exciting story. It's cool. It's really good for humanity. But this is going to get a lot less clicks than something about a deep fake of Taylor Swift, for example. That is just where we tend to go. So I found the comment section fascinating and quite enlightening, because these are lots of people who are realizing that, oh, maybe it's quite useful. Maybe we can use it for this.